Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another live stream. You've just missed David throwing beer around the place.
My room now smells like a brewery.
My God, what a putz! He got the lid off. Didn't get any inside himself, but
got the lid off. Got the lid off without a bottle opener. I hasten to add, and managed to knock it over. I didn't lose that much, but I lost enough.
Half a beer's better than no beer, innit? Good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody in the chat. Hello, Paul. Hello, Tim. Hello, Orinoco. Hello, Trevor. Hello, Ewok Kebab. Hello, Darren. Good to see everybody.
Tim's attacking me already.
Tim knows you too well. To be fair, he's a fucking putz when he's not drunk. Oh my God. Hello, Spam and Egg. So, hope we all had a good week of hobby and gaming and goodness. I've had a pretty lazy week, to be fair. I haven't managed to
You liar! I rushed you to force you to play a game on Monday, but we'll talk about that shortly.
I haven't done much hobby. So
we never do much hobby.
No, I'm in a bit of a lull, to be fair. You know how this motivation thing, it ebbs and it flows. David's just informed me that apparently I need to have all this bolt action finished by Monday, which is...
Well, I'm glad you don't have bolt action on Monday and it's Flames of War we're fucking playing. You old buffoon.
Shut up. Stop picking on the old person.
Sorry, I'll get you your meds and take you to a home.
Darren's had a week of miniature free gaming. Jesus, Darren. Are you feeling all right, mate? What's that, board games or role-playing? What have you been up to? He'll tell us in the chat, no doubt. So, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, welcome to the show. Over the next couple of hours, we will be following our usual format. So the first thing we'll do is show you what we're going to be working on tonight in terms of hobby. And then we'll have a quick chat about what we did at Gaming Club on Monday, because for those of you who were here last week and the week before know that we've had no club because of problems with our venue and the local council tearing up the roads.
More the county council ruining the road.
Yeah, so with parking being a nightmare, we've had a couple of weeks off club. But David popped over for a game, which we'll tell everybody about. I don't think there's much to discuss news-wise. But I may throw some
if
videos
you've not backed Worms and Worms is for you, you've got hours left now, so go do that.
I did notice there was a video put up by Mantic about the Worms game, was there not, on their YouTube channel?
I don't know. I'll tell you what you have got in the news that I should have fucking told you about.
Go on.
The TT new releases. The Strigoi. For Carnivale.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. Where did I see it? So there's a trailer video. I thought Mantic had done a bigger video with actually a playthrough. Maybe it was on a different... If anybody in the chat remembers, I could swear that I saw a Worms board game playthrough video on my YouTube feed.
I did see the Weta thing, Tim, but I didn't know who the fuck they were. And secondly, it's Warhammer, and I couldn't give a flying fuck.
Yeah, we're not really Warhammer guys.
If you couldn't tell.
Darren! Oh, mate. The Lone Wolf game books. I tell you what, going back probably 5 or 6 months ago, I started tackling them. There's a very good phone app which has got like a digitized version of the game books, the whole Kai and Magna Kai series. So in a bit of nostalgia, I was going through those a few months ago. I managed to get up to Castle Death, I think, with book 5 of the original Kai series. They were very good game books. Very good game books. For people who don't know, if you Google Joe Diva or Lone Wolf game books, you'll find them on
It's on Mantic's
it is on Mantic's
YouTube.
YouTube. I was just having a look, Tim. I shall go back and look again properly because I'm a doofus.
But you can do that when we talk about what we did on Monday.
Shut up. I appear to have audio. Don't want audio. Go away. You'll get me Oh no, hang on, that won't be a thing because I'm not monetized.
You've gone like you've stuck your head in a toilet bowl, boy.
Right, I will have a look. I could see a trailer video, which is like 1 minute, but that's fucking not. That's no use to man nor beast. I thought it was like a good long playthrough vid.
Let's get my fucking light out of the way. I'm fairly sure there's a playthrough vid on the actual Kickstarter itself.
There's Worms the Board Game, chat with the designer.
I don't know.
Yeah, it must be on a different channel. Somebody's got it.
I'm going in my bag of goodies.
But that's a shame.
Fuck.
I know, Darren. Yeah, I don't want to go to there. I had them all in paper when I was a younger boy. I had
when he was a wee bairn.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I offloaded all of my game books. I had pretty much the entire Final Fighting Fantasy up to about 35, 40. All of the sorcery books, all of the Way of the Tiger Ninja books, all of the
Let's get some more in this.
all of the Lone Wolf. I think most of the big ranges I had. But as I say, sometime in my 20s, they all got Man versus Meeple. Thank you, Tim. I'll try and grab a link to that video to put up for everybody. So yeah. So there's that in the news, but we'll come to that later. What are you going to be hobbying on tonight, matey boy?
Shall we go down to my camera?
Yeah, let's do that. Darren, you haven't chipped in yet. What are you up to, mate? Apart from winding me up about Lone Wolf. Right, come on then, David.
So I have a colleague at work that happens to have a laser cutter, and when I was at not UK Games Expo, Herald Wargaming Show,
Not
I bought
quite
some
as prestigious, but just as much fun.
Odd size bases. I've just glued this the wrong way around. So I got my colleague to cut me off some inserts to put trees in, and for me to fill around the edge. So I've got to glue all these fuckers together tonight, which is job number 1.
What did he use the ones you got from?
No, I did. So I scanned them on the scanner.
Oh, clever.
Turned them into a vector format for him. Offset the paths inside between 5 and 7.5 mil.
Yeah, well done.
And then
clever.
put the 40 mil circles in.
Okay, and then
So they're basically a clone exactly. So of the periphery of the board.
You're not going to chamfer the edge. You're going to try and
use
build
wall
it up.
filler. Use wall filler.
Yeah.
And smooth it. Is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, and then what? Bits flock, static grass.
Yeah, some sand and static grass, and then the second thing tonight is these bad boys. So I've got an entire set now base coated after I had a disaster with the airbrush last night trying to paint Vallejo dark sand over black. That was regrets, and I don't advise anybody fucking does that ever with an airbrush. So I attacked them with a dry brush, and 2 coats of dry brushing later, we're at a stage where I can add in some German camo or a Joker and some stone grey to put some variants in them. And then wash them.
I think I can't remember what base coat I used on my Brits for bolt action. I thought they were dark sand that I airbrushed. I didn't have a problem. But I wasn't going
Yeah,
over black primer, in fairness. I was going over Vallejo
exactly.
Ghost Grey. I very, very rarely use black primer anymore, to be honest.
Well, I used black rattle can because speed and efficiency.
Yeah.
Speed and efficiency lost the day when it came to
Well, yeah. False
painting
economy.
the dark sand.
Yeah, because you've wasted time on the second coat. Again,
But
I can.
all of my trees are now built up as well, so we might even get some of them glued to the 40 mils tonight as well.
Definitely looks that way, Tim. So first time buying battle system cardboard terrain, Darren, or are you a general fan? Just let us know. So okay, mate. So you've got a lot on. I'm probably going to be getting some base coats down on these beast men, which are for my Slaves to Darkness project. Because I don't want to play another game with unpainted models. So we have these OG late 80s metal GW Beastmen.
Metal!
We've got a bit of Vallejo Ghost Grey primer on these. So base coats. Not quite sure. Let's have everybody's input in chat.
No, because you ignore everybody's input
Shut up.
anyway. We told you to paint Santa. You
Yes.
fucking ignored us.
I fucking did. No trolling me, right? So
I think these need green armor,
shut up.
candy striped leggings,
Fucking hell. Look,
and a
skin
little
tone.
green stuff hat.
Listen, skin tone. Obviously, classically, they're painted with almost like a dark flesh, a sort of a ruddy humanoid human skin tone. But when you read the blurb in the Slaves to Darkness book, it says that corn beastmen, which is what they are, quite commonly have black or red skin.
I think, right, beige red.
Well, that's
from
what
Vallejo.
I was... Because I think you can be too literal, and I didn't really want to do them some bright strawberry red, but I was thinking like you, take something that's almost like a red beige. What did you just say?
Beige red.
Beige red. Yeah. So, what do we think? Do you think that would work?
Beige red and some Drucci violets for the washing.
That's not a bad call. No, Paul, we are painting nothing festive, all right? We're not painting them like Christmas trees, elves, fucking reindeer, none of it, okay?
Can you paint them white? And then put a big bit of toilet tissue over them, and then they can be Halloween themed.
Shut up.
No. You can't fucking make me.
Do you know what? Why do I even bother with you people? So that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Let's get some flesh down, and then we'll think about the other colours. Because to be honest,
You are, matron.
there's not really a lot going on here, frankly. They're basically naked. So it's skin, fur, and horns, and then mostly knives and shields and spears, which is like woods and metals.
Do you need like a big centaur for your army?
I don't need a normal centaur. They only fucking... No, they're not painting them like bananas. Just stop. I don't need a centaur as such, but I do need to fucking remodel my warband leader, as I discussed last week, now that he's got the lower half of a fucking corn flesh hound. Because random dice and Slaves to Darkness, of course. Bloody pain in the arse. So yeah.
I don't know why you're complaining.
Let's crack on.
Shall we talk about what we did on Monday?
Yes, so obviously Club was cancelled on Monday, and as frequent viewers will know, David and I have on a bit of a mission this year, mate, to find you a
Fine. It's like fucking Cinderella and the Ball at the moment.
yeah.
Trying to find the not Warhammer, trying to find the rank and flank fantasy game that ticks all of David's very niche boxes. And at the moment, shoe doesn't quite fit, does it?
No, it doesn't. But I'm just going to interrupt you. Now then, I've had a sensible suggestion from Orinoco for mahogany. I'm
Mahogany's
using
a bit browny, though.
which number is mahogany? Is that one of the model color range?
Yes, it is.
What number is it?
I don't have a colour chart to hand,
I've got
but
it.
in
I've got
about
it.
3 weeks, I'll
tell you
have
what.
all of my paints organised on a pegboard, boys and
think-
girls, so there'll be no more rifling through the boxes.
I think that's a very good shout, Orinoco, for the fur, because it's quite a reddish brown but very dark. But as I say, for the fur, that might be a very good shout. Very good. Thank you. Like that. Sorry, sir. Carry on, David. Carry on.
No, I was just ranting that I'm getting organised.
So yeah, we've been in this
Situation.
this sort of mission to find the rank and flank that David will that'll inspire him to get into fantasy mass combat. And because we're massive fans of every other game that Joseph McCulloch's ever made, I dropped 20 quid on the Oathmark rulebook, having watched a few playthroughs. So we finally got a chance to give that a try on Monday, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
So, hello, Crispin. Do you know what, Crispin? It's a Mantic game I haven't. Would you? We may have to. I have watched many a playthrough. Ash Barker did several. And I do like the look of it, but I haven't dipped my toe in
Vanguard.
yet. It's their sort of like Mordheim. It's literally individual model skirmish.
Yeah, but I'm looking for a rank and flank, Crispin.
Yeah, it's not really what he's looking for, Crispin. He's looking for a bigger army game. But
I want a big dwarf army.
But the recommendation
is not necessarily a sentence that comes out often.
So anyway, Oathmark. So
Everything else Joseph does is good.
We'll explain in a minute, Crispin. So we have tried Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition because I own everything. What we've done for each of the games is played a smallish game for each rule set with the same
Orcs versus elves.
So I've taken my Orc collection and my High Elf collection and built 1,000 points each in each of the game systems. And we've literally played them alongside each other so that David can get a feel for the game system using the same models, if that makes sense. Which I think has been quite a good little experiment. If anyone
it has allowed us really to see the nuances of each game and those particular two factions and how they're handled.
Yeah, because we've kept the miniature selections and the unit styles very similar, it does allow you to see the cogs within the machine, doesn't it? And shows the systems off. So Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition, it was the magic what won it, Gov. Which anybody who's played Warhammer Fantasy Battle 8th edition knows that is the problem with that game. Magic is the hammer that will win you the game. Which David wasn't a massive fan of.
I liked the magic, didn't like the fact that you rolled randomly for it before each game and therefore you are not in control of it.
Yeah. If you just got lucky rolls or lots of wizards so you could pick you could effectively get lots of doubles and then select your spells on that basis, it's a bit shit. We tried the
Kings of War?
Hobgoblin free starter rules,
Yep.
which we enjoyed initially, but
Then we got to game 2 and game 3 because it played very quickly as well.
Very
That is another credit to it.
very quickly.
It played very quickly. But then we broke the game.
Yeah, because we were playing with such a limited palette and a limited rule set, and because you can keep customizing and changing things, we did, as David said, basically we loaded up on all of the best
Tough.
modifications and broke it, and that left a bit of a bad taste in the mouth.
Plus the fact that we didn't get to see how magic worked because magic didn't form part of the demo.
We played Kings of War because I have a load of stuff. I've noted that Paul. Paul said 1978's Reaper the War game. I will look at that later. Yeah, anyway. So, Kings of War, you didn't like, sir, did you?
No, the nerve test really got me.
Yeah. And I have to say there was factors in that. Here's a cautionary tale. You've got to be careful when doing this where you build small lists and then keep swapping systems, because some systems don't particularly work very well in certain scenarios. The reason I think that the Kings of War experiment failed for David was that the units we were using were so small that with spike dice they could fail their nerve tests extremely quickly. So David was in a position where if I got a good charge off, he would just like lifting units up just because he was rolling spike dice I was rolling spike dice on the nerve checks. And I didn't have the foresight to build any inspiring into his list, which again was my bad. Because obviously without the re-rolls, he was at the mercy of the dice. So that didn't go over great. So we then tried Oathmark. And
From a friendly neighbourhood, Joseph McCullough. I like the game. My main issue and concern, it's low fantasy. It's not super high fantasy and you can get all weird and wacky creatures, which is a bit of a turn-off for me because, again, I would like some dwarves and some gyrocopters and that kind of stuff. I want the weird, wacky, niche shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you want my army.
You want the almost exotic high fantasy Games Workshop gyrocopters and black powder weapons and stuff like that. And the problem with Oathmark, as David has said, is it's quite grounded. So, like, out of the core rulebook, you've got humans, elves, dwarves, goblins, and orcs, I believe. And there are, don't get me wrong, there are big mythical monsters, like the dwarves get access to giant white rhinoceri, some weird, like, think pseudo trolls, but skinny and with claws. And what's the other dwarf one? Oh, great big black
bears.
Dogs.
Not bears.
Black dogs, wasn't it? Giant black dogs. So there is some elements of high fantasy, but not really enough for David, I don't think. The core system's pretty cool.
Yeah, the core system is very cool. The fact that we were on, what was it, turn 3 at one point, and we're like, okay, we've got this. We know what we're doing.
To be fair, that is a fair comment, Crispin. Oathmark is very Tolkien-esque, I guess. It is very low fantasy. Magic's very tuned down. Magic items are surprisingly expensive. That's the other thing the only way to sort of like really dial into an exact points is by manipulating the number of figures in a unit, because actually characters are quite expensive and magic items are quite expensive. So when you've got to fill like a 30-point slot, you just have to add a dude to a unit or something like that.
Oh, well, David's thick as shit.
Well, tell us something we don't know. Ooh, Paul, that's a good idea. Sounds like David needs to write his own rule set.
I mean, I did say to you, we need to sort of pick and bastardize what we've got out there. Again, Oathmark, the narrative side of it, fucking amazing.
Yeah.
The thought of building your own faction and pairing the goblins and the elves and the humans together and building your empire and playing the games again. Hats off to you, Joseph. Fucking genius.
Yeah, the campaign mode, I think, is where that game will absolutely sing. To be fair, I tell you what, it was quite a slow play as well. Considering we were playing at 1,000 points, we were a good 2 and a bit hours.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it was our very first game, but it you compare that to Kings of War, where we were done with like 1,000 points after about an hour.
Well, we played 2,000 points games, didn't we?
And Hobgoblin, where we were done after about 30 minutes. So, compared to some of the systems, obviously for fantasy it was about the same. A fantasy is a good long slog most of the time.
And we weren't doing as we usually do, because you commented on that. We weren't playing chicken and waiting for somebody to blink first. We were both throwing stuff across the table at one another.
Yes. That's one thing that... It is quite interesting to play all these rank and flank games, because let's take something like...
Warhammer Fantasy Battles.
Orinoco's kind. What about the rule set Warren is working on? It has round bases, rigging, and random movement. Did I just hear Jerry have a stroke? Oh dear. Yeah. So say like Warhammer Fantasy. One of the core conceits of the game is setting up the charges, and particularly with 8th edition. If you can break a unit in the charge, what happens is you'll get like a standoff until the units engage, and then if you can break your enemy, their whole army will collapse very quickly. Similar thing happens in Kings of War often. You'll get like a couple of turns of positioning and setup. Then once the flag goes down and the charge goes, then things resolve themselves relatively quickly. Not so with Oathmark, to be fair. The game was quite not slow, but the game was quite a different experience. You know, when you engaged, it wasn't an all or nothing result. It wasn't like, oh, okay, that's me destroyed. There was quite a lot of jostling. I do like the dice mechanic uses quite a small points. Yes, Jerry. Yeah, I'll be honest, Jerry. I definitely, sir, take blame for David's bad experience, because, like I say, I should have put inspiring into both lists. I should have shoehorned it in somehow, even if it was like increasing them to 1,200 point lists, because having some inspiring to mitigate crazy dice rolls, particularly when you're running a lot of small 10-man units and you've got no big regiments or hordes, it is a bit vulnerable to the nerve checks getting crazy, and you just basically have a collapse just fueled by bad luck and bad rolls. So I do definitely take blame there. I think you're spot on. It's blame the guy who built the lists, and I'll totally wear that. That is not unfair criticism at all. So Oathmark, for those you see now, this is the other thing. One of the things that held us back from Oathmark was that you can't get a free rule set for it unless I'm being an idiot. Please feel free to correct me. But if you don't buy it, you can't try it. And I am glad I've bought it. Don't get me wrong. It is a game I will be happy to play and collect and paint for, even if it's not David who I'll be participating with. It's a great little game. So that if I was to
don't get me wrong, it is wonderful, and if I wanted that Tolkien-esque vibe, and I was already in a rank and flank, I would probably do it.
Yeah.
But because I want dwarves full of fucking tech as my first rank and flank army.
Yeah, you want something.
I'm a bit snookered.
Yeah, I don't.
Because I even said to you about getting the Mantic Northern Alliance army.
Yes.
The mega army.
Yeah.
Because you could play that in Oathmark, Kings of War, and Hobgoblin. Happy days, no problems. It's fine for all of them. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yep.
I keep looking at it and going, oh, it's cute, and oh, it's a sensible price. But I don't think it's going to fill the itch the same as painting a load of angry ginger guys is going to do.
Well, that's the other thing. You've got the Troll Slayers. Although, again, because essentially, with Oathmark, the main thing that differentiates the units in the rulebook for the main factions, I haven't got any of the supplements, so I can't comment to those. But the main thing that differentiates the factions, the units in the various factions, is their weapon loadout. So,
a human spearman is similar to an orc spearman is similar to an elf spearman.
Yes, and so like for the elves, you get elves with swords and shields, elves with spears and shields, elves with bows, elves with, but swords and shields and light armor, bows and spears and shields and light armor. Then you can get sword shield heavy armor, two-handed weapon heavy armor, and they've all just got a different name, like elf warrior, elf soldier, elf spearman, elf whatever the bloody two-handed weapon guys are. So
Berserker?
I can't remember, but it's similar for all of the other factions. So you've got dwarves with two-handed weapons, dwarves with light armor and shield, heavy armor and shield. It's quite generic. So you could, for example, just take Troll Slayer miniatures if you bloody love GW Troll Slayer miniatures and say, okay, well, these are this is this dwarf unit. It's flexible enough that you can collect and paint what you like, which is totally what you'd expect from a Joseph game. And as long as your opponent's not a complete dick and like, well, that doesn't look like appropriate level of armor for that miniature, as long as you're not playing from it with a complete knobhead and everybody's happy, I think it's a great game. I love the fact that you're running with a limited dice pool. Most of the time, you're rolling 5 dice or 4 dice.
5 d10s or less.
Yep.
There's a really cool mechanic we can mention here briefly. So shielding, rather than like upping an armor save, as it would in most other games, shielding allows you to remove one of the dice from your opponent's pool. So instead of throwing 5d10s, he's throwing 4d10s.
But the trade-off is, when you invoke it, you sacrifice one of your own as well. So
yes,
there are,
in melee.
Yeah, when you're in range, you can do it with impunity. So, but again, there's loads of really nice touches in the rule set to all of the classic things that often plague large scale rank and flank games, like overpowered shooting. There are lots of nice touches in the rule set to mitigate those problems potentially.
It's never more than 5d10 being hooked anyway. The only caveat being, so each model has a defense value and each model has an attacking value, and you take the attacking value away from the defense value. So if you're defense 9 and you're shooting 3, you're hitting on 6s. Happy days. With extra ranks, you can boost that down to hitting on 2s, hitting on 1s, etc.
Yeah, the rank bonuses can be pretty clutch.
Tasty.
But they also, I mean, again, that's another nice thing. Units can be a maximum of 20 models for standard infantry. You don't get 80-man units of zombies, and well, maybe you do because we haven't got the undead supplement. But in the core rules for the races we've talked about, you can't get ridiculously big units. Everything's quite small and
refined
compact.
And small.
Yeah. So again, some people might say, well, that's a bit of a limited rule set, and yeah, but it's you sometimes when you've got to keep a balanced gaming experience, you need to keep those restrictions in place. It's occurred to me, Jerry's put there, why don't you just play fantasy battles and take the magic down? It's occurred to me, mate. The latest iteration of Warhammer Fantasy.
Warhammer Armies Project.
Yeah, WAP. WAP it's been described as 8th edition with the magic of 6th edition and some of the design aesthetics of 7th. So it has...
That is probably on the radar.
And because the rules are currently still available relatively easily, I think the chap who was doing the project has had to redesign stuff and has had a cease and desist from using old GW artwork, but the core text, the PDFs will go back up after they've been edited if they're not
I tell you the other thing we need to try.
Yep.
OPR.
Yeah, do you know what? We should do it. We should do OPR. I think it's called Regiments, isn't it?
Yeah.
Fantasy Regiments, the OPR one. We should try it. As I say, the only reason we didn't try it initially was when I saw it was model removal. I thought, well, why would you bother when let's just play fantasy? But it may appeal to you more.
Yeah, but again, Oathmark is model removal. We didn't find it that egregious.
It is. As I say, I think what do I think about Oathmark after one game? Let's just jump straight in there.
TLDR.
For me, the thing, again, for anybody who doesn't know, Oathmark has a fabulous campaign system. Who'd have thought it in a Joseph McCulloch game? I think that is the way to play Oathmark. So you create like a kingdom with various regions, then whatever regions you have in your kingdom, that defines what units you can buy for your army. And then when you play in the campaign mode, you attack each other's kingdoms when you resolve battles, and it has an impact.
It's a little bit nice.
I think that is probably the way to play that game, and it seems like a really strong little campaign system. And in fact, we may steal it and try the system with other, games.
Where did my big saw go? There it is.
Sort of like Mighty Empire style campaign system. I think it's, the only thing is that it isn't that in the core book you haven't got the exotic races. As somebody who's coming from Warhammer Fantasy, where you've got the whole plethora
demons,
of vampire counts, demons, bloody toon things, all of that.
Big boy iron jaws orcs.
Yeah, or orcs and goblins are fairly. Orcs and goblins are probably the
Yeah, but
closest. But even then, they're very. They don't have that comedy aesthetic.
no, they're
very straight.
they're very Tolkien orcs.
Yes.
Like you pick the orc box up from North Star, and it looks like the orcs that you see running down the fucking in the movie sets of the Tolkien movies.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't lean into the comedy at all, and you don't get
No.
crazy shit like squigs and fanatics and all that nonsense.
Or Doom Divers,
Yeah.
or
so for me, I like that. I would definitely say that that's a negative for me. It could be more, there could be just more exotic units and forces, but maybe the supplements fix some of that. As I say, I may indulge in buying more. I'm trying to resist just buying things for the sake of buying things. If I don't think I'm going to give them table time, I'm trying to keep my bloody money in my pocket. But I may weaken and buy some, and I'll keep you guys posted. And do you know what? The other thing I do think, I know that because of the way when it was released, I think COVID had a very negative effect on Oathmark's success. I think it should have.
It impacted how well it's done, hasn't it?
Having bought the game and played it, it definitely should have done better than it has. I mean, I don't see it played much.
That's what Jerry's just said. It's very much Middle Earth on the tabletop. I mean, again, you could go out and buy the fucking Lord of the Rings minis from Games Workshop and base them up and have the full alliance, etc. in battling. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think to be fair as well, Jerry, I don't know if you agree, but the other influence that really stands out to me is it's got a very pagan, almost medieval real world influence. Like most of the big rare monster choices for each of the armies, you can see parallels to creatures from real world folklore, beasts, because they're all very animalistic, and that it's quite grounded in all of its aspects. Really. So yeah, that's what we did Monday.
Picked up a copy of Movement. You got me curious.
I don't honestly, Ewok. I don't feel bad about that. I mean, I've seen it as cheap as £18 online.
Again, if you like all the other Joseph McCullough games, it is what you'd expect from him.
And if you're somebody who already owns thousands of fantasy miniatures, you could throw together forces to play in that game ever so easily.
And that's one thing I will say about both Hobgoblin and Oathmark.
Don't worry, mate.
You are not...
Yes, Jerry, Beowulf. That's a very good point.
...tied to just having one faction and just having your dwarves. You can have your dwarves allied with your humans and your elves, etc. Hobgoblin, because it's completely and utterly free reign again. What's it called? Oathmark, because of the campaign system, etc.
Do you know what, Darren? Stop talking about it, mate, because this is... I'll be honest, the game is so impressive. The first thing I started doing, I read the rulebook in an entire evening, and I was pretty hyped to give it a try. But particularly when I read the campaign and system, because I didn't even know it was in there. I didn't know that was a feature of the game. And immediately I started looking at what supplements have we got. And I think there's 4 supplements now.
Yeah, there is.
And it really won't take. All it'll take is fools like you telling me all the cool stuff that's in them, and I'll go and buy the damn things. So stop now. That does sound cool. Halflings
Right,
riding tree men.
We've been on a massive tirade about what we did this week. We've only got a little 20-minute portion for the news, or 15-minute portion for the news, actually. So should we get on with some news?
Well, what have you got, man? Because I haven't got anything.
I told you. TT Combat Carnivale minis. Fucking gorgeous.
Oh, right. Okay, hang on a minute. TT Combat Carnivale. Let's see if we can find it.
I've glued all my tree bases up. So we've got to wait for them to dry now. Very nice.
It'll be on the TT Combat community page, won't it?
Yes, because was it revealed last week, so they're on pre-order and you can get them in the shop right now?
I think I saw them on OTT. So
there's more than 2 supplements.
I think there are 4 for Oathmark. I could be wrong.
Bear with me. Oh, fuck off. Oathmark series. We have Battlesworn, Oathbreaker, Bane of Kings, and what did I say? Oh no, there's only 3. There's 4 books total.
3.
Battlesworn, Oathbreakers, and Bane of Kings. The Halfling list is just on his website, by the way, if you're looking for it.
I'm trying to find... No, I'm not... Wasn't there some new Strigoi models?
Yes, there was. New Strigoi models and a drowned gondola thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay. I remember.
Now you know what you're looking for, old man.
Yeah, just bear with us, everybody.
Right.
Really? Really, Google? Really?
I'm just going to dive out of shot a second because I need to get some trees. Because it's going to be tremendous. Well, hey. Oh, right. Here we go, boys and girls.
Here we go. New releases.
Oh, fuck it. Put them there. Right.
Oh,
Let's find my 40.
Here we go. Yeah. That was what I saw. Open that in the new tab. Open that in the new tab.
Question for the internet, and you've got 2 minutes to answer. Super glue or epoxy glue to glue the bases of my Woodland Scenics armatures to MDF? Go. That is a good joke, Jerry. That is a very good joke.
Very good. Yeah, I remember I saw this on Tabletop, I believe. I ran a news article. I thought this was as cool as fuck, so I may be getting this. It's only £9.
9 of your English pennies.
Because it's not only is it a great terrain piece, it's really thematic for my Strigoi.
Oronoko's gone for the option that isn't even there. Ewok's saying super glue.
What were you asking them? How to stick?
Super glue or epoxy to stick plastic to MDF? Go.
I would go super glue. I don't think you need the hassle of epoxy. Why do you want to mix up and piss about with epoxy?
Dude, have you met me?
Yes. But you're not fucking engineering a piece of agri-machinery now, oh fuck's sake. What are you intending to do with them?
Throw them across the room. You know what I'm like. They'll be in a box without a lid.
Well, the good news is if you do that, the super glue will crack clean through, and you can just glue them again.
I need to get the lid off my super glue for starters.
If you were to be foolish enough to do that.
Fuck off, glue.
Magnets. Fucking hell. Don't encourage him. Fucking Captain Hard Mode. Jesus.
Man, glue. Fuck off, Ricky.
Whoa. Whoa.
That just got dark quickly.
Yeah. To be fair, I wouldn't like to fucking say that's going to hold it in place.
It's not thick enough.
No. So subaqueous beasts. What's this? This is not Strigoi. This is Rashad.
Yes, it is Strigoi.
Is it?
Look at the logo in the top left-hand corner.
Ooh.
It's Strigoi,
So
my
after
friend.
capturing Rashad creatures from the depths of the Venetian canals, they are gifted with. Oh my god! So we've got vampiric Rashad. What the fuck?
So not only do we have fish people, we have now fish people that bite.
These are pretty cool. I like these a lot.
Cheers, Sam.
What the hell is going on with these miniatures? Bloody elephantitis of the legs.
Did you not realise that they were like Rashad but Strigoified? Oh, why do I even bother sending you links?
They are pretty cool. They are pretty cool. But do I need any more miniatures? I don't mind this so much because this at least is terrain. I already have so much Strigoi. Do I really want more? And don't say yes, of course you do. So, have you got anything else? What else was in the news? I'm trying to think. I did see some cool YouTube videos. Let's see what was on YouTube. Oh, I tell you what did fucking make me laugh. I'm sure everybody here has already seen it. But
oh, you just seen Ewok's comment. Is that about the Rashad Ewok?
What's that? I can't.
It's like it's like being back on Tinder.
Oh God. Fucking hell, that's a good shout, Orinoco. That is a fucking brilliant shout.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think that means you're now buying them, doesn't it?
It might be, because I've only got 4 Strigoi models to paint, and then I can light myself to buy more, because that's the way I roll.
Because Orinoco is an enabler.
Where's this fucking thing? Here we go. There's Tim put Tim's live stream on Tuesday. There was this brilliant fucking snippet that somebody had clipped out, presumably Tim himself. And if anybody hasn't seen it, go and watch it. It's only 2 minutes of your time. We didn't really need that, did we? Why? Normally these fucking things are muted. Now it's decided it's not muting anymore. So this is Jerry's rant about round bases in fantasy, and it's fucking hysterical. Have you seen it?
I'm gonna have to go watch this now.
This is I totally agree with you, Jerry. It's the most fucking frustrating thing in the world. Talking of, I noticed you mentioned war machines, which I think this person had put is dwarf war machines on round bases for some fucking weird reason. all of my war machines in fantasy were on square bases. Even the stuff that didn't need to be on a base, I put it on a fucking base anyway. So like my bolt throwers were all on 50mm squares, and people are like, why are they on bases? Because they fucking should be. Oh dear.
You're giving Jerry Vietnam flashbacks.
So I have very much got your back, Jerry. It's like, just, if that's what it, just why? Just fucking why? But yeah, so yeah, if anybody hasn't seen it, go and watch it because it's bloody hysterical. Was there anything else? There was loads of stuff about Warhammer 40k 10th edition, but I absolutely fucking refuse to talk about that because it's all bullshit. I'm afraid I'm not interested. The Ninjon video was okay. Ninjon, I normally like his videos, but this week's was basically just a fucking rehash of slap chop. It's fine. It's just nothing much. I tell you who did put, Scott Miniac put up a video. He finally finished. Here it is. Let's share. Copy. And I bet you're just going to go into the browser with a fucking volume enabled because the browser's bollocks. I want it muted. Hooray! It's fucking muted. Right. Here we go. So basically, Scott the Midiac, he did a video because he actually managed to finish his AOS army.
Has anyone ever finished an AOS army ever?
What's good about the video is that it's taken him virtually his entire adult life. He's gone and he's never finished an army. And now, as a successful YouTuber, I guess you could say, and somebody who's got some real painting chops, it's weird. He's made a video about the satisfaction of finally finishing an army project. And it's just like, yeah, good on you, Scott. Good man. Yeah, I'm not here to defend Age of Sigmar or at all be positive about that, but Scott's finished an army. That's fucking awesome. You know, I just, maybe it's just me, but I love these sort of, it's just nice to see a video. He's not fucking painting something to a ridiculous display standard, which is tedious. All he's doing is telling you about the satisfaction he's feeling about finally finishing a full fucking army. And it's just such a feel-good video. Paul, round bases make them work with all system. Paul, drag yourself out and shoot yourself, mate.
No.
That is heresy round here, sir. Do you base Gaslands cars? Ooh.
No.
Oh. That's now then.
This is the awkward moment where somebody's going to pipe up and say, I base Gasland cars on a round. Oh, do you now?
Yeah, 50mm round. No! Oh, dear. That is a good shout, though. Should we base Gaslands cards? No, possibly not. I think you're just being silly.
Possibly a step too far.
Yeah. Although it could be done. They'd fit quite nicely on rectangular bases. You know, something to consider.
Orinoco does my reply was censored.
Oh, shut up, Ricky. Ricky, it's not hard to play an army. Yeah, not hard for you. Hex bases. Oh, God, Tim. I wouldn't even play fucking Battletech with hex bases.
Why?
Because Alpha Strike allows me not to.
But why not put them on hex bases so you can play full fat Battletech if you're feeling like a real sadist?
Actually, maybe I would. I don't know. To be fair, I probably wouldn't get into Battletech unless it was to assist you in a hobby passion. And I don't think you've... Because you're right. You've been really cagey, haven't you? You're not quite sure which mech game you want to commit to. You're not quite sure which fantasy game you want to commit to.
Do you want to attack me any fucking more? Fucking
I'm just saying.
bellend.
Just saying. You know,
In some
you
of
could
the
be a
good
little bit
news-
more decisive.
Fuck off. Who asked you anyway?
Hex bases for Gaslands. Yeah, awesome.
Question, if you were going to put some scatter in some woodlands because you fucked up and put the trees too close, what would you do?
What have you done?
Shall I go down?
Yeah,
shall
let's
I
go down
to
to
my,
desk
let's
cap.
go down to my camera and then we will get on with the 9 o'clock stuff because it's 9
well,
o'clock.
to be fair, this is it, mate. Now you've teased it, you can show everybody what I do for
What?
some...
My terrain fuck up because we're going to talk about terrain. Put my teeth back in. We're going to talk about terrain this evening. Right, let's go down to the camera then, and then I can show the boys and girls what's gone wrong.
What have you done?
So, you see these?
Yes.
Beautifully spaced so that the tops of the trees sort of blend into one another but don't at the same time.
Right, yep.
I have an issue. The third tree won't fit here, so I've had to put an insert in.
Why do you mean the third tree won't fit?
Because the fucking branches run into the underside of the other branches.
Well, cut some of the branches apart or bend them out the way or...
No.
Oh,
because...
Mate, you can't.
I can't what?
You can't just leave... Look, you could get a fucking lorry in there. Just, you get a tree in that gap. You've just been such a drama queen.
Don't... Shall we try and put it... Oh, look, my tree has got tree running through the centre of my tree.
Oddly enough, trees do grow like that, you know.
Yes, but I've got fucking clump foliage and everything to add, and it's going to just complicate matters, isn't it?
Well, I think you're being fucking ridiculous. Yeah, Orinoco says just make a smaller tree. Buy a smaller one.
Get yourself a bit of bush. Got any smaller armatures? Why do I feel like I'm being trolled?
I think that's ridiculous, man. You can get a tree in there.
Anyway, I'm gonna go back to gluing shit to bases because I'm being attacked, and we're gonna get on about tonight's topic, which is actually about terrain.
You're already on it, mate. You're
exactly.
already you're leading the charge.
I am themed.
So, obviously, let's get tonight's topic is we haven't got. You'll be glad to know, everybody who's here to relax and not do any work, like me. Drama king, yeah, that's probably more like it. Yeah, God forbid. No, the trees are touching each other. Reality unspooling before my eyes. Fucking hell.
Will you fuck off, you ginger prick?
So yeah, terrain. Now, I was inspired to do this topic because of our friends over on Tabletop. Those of you who are watching this later on YouTube, because I think virtually everybody in the chat here is a Backstage member, so probably watches the Sunday show. And if you're not, you should be, because it's the best money you'll spend. Warren was chatting about being nostalgic for going back to a time when we had massive fixed playing boards that were like all sculpted terrain. Yeah, Darren, the XLBS. And I was thinking, I'm not nostalgic for that at all. I think one of the greatest renaissances we've had in miniature wargaming is in the sector of terrain. Don't get me wrong. Thinking back to when I was in my teens and early 20s, the choice we've now got of war games, rule systems, miniature ranges is just like mind blowing. The quality, but the terrain sector, it's just amazing what products are available now. And I mean, obviously, for those who are Backstage members or are tempted to join, I think it was on the XLBS show, the Sunday show. The guys there went into it all, and basically, I said to David, we've been focusing, this year has been a year of terrain for us. We've both got more games than we've ever got time to play. We've got more miniatures than we've got time to paint. But like the title of the video suggests, the terrain is always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I still maintain the vast majority of wargamers don't give terrain the time.
Again, a lot of people are put off by just the sheer volume of work.
Yeah. But
there are some good options out there that require next to no work.
For those not in the know, you can see, back in the day when I first started wargaming in my teens, there wasn't really any substitute for work. If you wanted terrain, you had to scratch build it and craft it. You couldn't, there was some hobby rail stuff, but the wargaming sector, you couldn't go and buy sci-fi ruins precast in resin or made out of MDF or
pre-colored for you as well.
You had to make stuff. So time, skill, hobby, art inspiration, that sort of stuff was absolutely your only option. Now, if you are time poor, you can trade cash resource for some very good ready-to-use products. And that's for everything for your terrain needs, from battle mats through to tiny pre-painted scatter pieces, and everything in between. Places like eBay, Etsy, these marketplace store websites. You've got people who are running little cottage industries where they make pre-finished terrain for all sorts of... I saw a fantastic deal, well, I thought it was a great deal, on eBay when I was just doing some browsing for the show. It was a guy, basically he's created a set of forests and terrain pieces suitable for World War II era games. 129 quid, you'd got a ton of coverage for a 4x4. If you bought that and a battle mat, you've got a 4x4 table done. For any sort of like European summer or autumn theatre game. And you know, I don't think that's an unreasonable amount of money for a finished 4x4 table. That's about what when I was building terrain packs or terrain collections for the club, I would always budget about 150 quid for the table finished.
Yeah.
So yeah, we thought, tell you what we'll do. We'll talk about terrain.
We've got Paul in chat going, you can hire people. Darren saying he really likes the battle system stuff. The card stuff's really nice.
Yep. Again, all of your options have got pros and cons. Some of the stuff that is literally ready to play, so that it's either painted resin or pre-colored MDF. Some of that is not the cheapest stuff.
No.
But you literally buy it, put it on the table, you're done. You've got loads of options below that. MDF that requires painting, resin that comes blank and requires painting.
Well, I mean, look what I'm doing currently right now. I'm sticking armatures to fucking MDF bases that I have jerry-rigged and butchered together to make them removable and insertable. I could have gone out and bought them from the internet, and I wouldn't be having to fuck around like this.
Yeah, I agree, Darren. I mean, I backed the Acid House Kickstarter, which was paper infinity cyberpunk-ish style terrain.
Ewok suggesting kidnap.
Kidnap?
Kidnap a railway modeller.
Yeah, it could do. Hold them to ransom. Get them in some sort of like sweatshop.
Stockholm Syndrome style.
Presumably the cardboard stuff, the only work though, Paul, is gluing it together, isn't it? Cardboard kits are not a huge amount of effort. Dave Graffam models, thanks Jerry. So these are presumably print and build stuff from Dave. I mean, paper has its critics. The problem with paper is it's very two-dimensional by its nature. You don't get any surface texture. You get some great visual textures, but there's no actual three-dimensionality.
It can be quite flat, can't it?
But it's incredibly lightweight, very fast to build, and often stupidly cheap for what it is. Some of the designers have even gone so far as to make the stuff collapsible and foldable back up so that the storage requirements aren't massive.
Looking at you, Acid House.
Yeah. Although the company that does the stuff that's literally like pop-up, I don't like that stuff. I've seen a lot of it in the flesh, and obviously because they've got it engineered so that it acts like a pop-up book, some of the shapes don't look right to me, and it looks very
big
fragile.
Gaps, isn't there?
I didn't spot that, Darren. I will go and look. Metcalf is £2 for a 3-story Tudor building. That's insane.
Okay.
Yeah. Jerry.
It doesn't matter that my trees touch boys and girls because I've cut too many holes for all of my trees, so I've got some empty spaces.
Just shut up, David. Trees touching is not a problem, for God's sake, man. So, yeah. The terrain game, I think, is one that's changed the most in our hobby over recent decades. And even though I'm not, to come back to Warren's nostalgia because back in the day, for those who don't know, wargaming terrain had a lot more in common with model railway layouts. So you would get fully textured ground forms, hills and slopes and grass fields.
Diorama boards,
They would be
call them.
They would be built permanently fixed to large wooden bases, and you'd end up with something that was essentially a piece of furniture with a fucking countryside modelled on the top of it. Did they look absolutely beautiful? Yes, they did. Would you? I am not going to sit here and say that even the best gaming mat and some printed paper cardboard terrain are going to look as good as, you know, some obsessive photorealistic terrain piece
3D
that somebody's spent hundreds of hours working on, because that's madness. Oh, this was the Carnivale one. I didn't even really... You see, when you look at it in passing, you don't even see that it's bloody... I'm just going to save this to my computer, Darren, and I'll probably bring it up for everybody at home. Save. Yeah, so what Darren's saying is he sent me some pictures of the Border Reavers show event, and somebody had got a Carnivale table with the canals and the buildings, and
have they done full resin pour and everything?
I think it's it's actually a gaming mat. I think it's a gaming mat. Correct me if I'm wrong, Darren. It might be paper. It might just be like the PVC, backed PVC stuff with a print texture on it. It could be paper though. Everything else is. It's probably paper. But it again, I just looked at the photograph in Darren's selection and I didn't even clock it was paper terrain. That's how good it is. Windows slideshow. Let's see if I can get this. Picture tools slideshow. No, I haven't selected that, have I?
I don't know. Darren's not sure. Didn't really look at it.
That's it.
Well, I know what I'm printing to fill the 3 empty circles that I've got. I'm going to print some ammo cases.
Here it is. So this is the picture that Darren sent me from Border Reavers. So you can see that the water at the bottom's got a slight curl to it. Now, obviously, if it was a
and yeah, I think it's like a neoprene mat.
If it was a neoprene backed mat, it would lay probably flatter than that. You can get like a PVC. Yeah, you've got to. No, that's really good point, Ewok. Retired wargamers have a great one. What do you mean, Paul? Retired wargamers have a great one. You mean like fixed boards? The kind of thing that you can do as a retirement project indulgence when your kids have left the house and you've got a spare room that you can just devote to it. Because that is the drawback. You know, do you honestly have something that you can, that's basically
somewhere you can store a 4 foot by 4 foot board
or
that's 3 inches thick? Yeah, that's
basically,
3 inches
do you
thick.
have a room in your house where you can permanently place a snooker table size display? You know, like a railway layout. And if you can, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. But as Ewok said in their comment, it's not. Those boards look beautiful, and if you were doing something that was being filmed for YouTube and television or whatever, and you wanted to do panning shots, that the visual appeal of that is fantastic. Back in the day, Luke at Geek Gaming Scenics used to do some incredible board projects that he was paid to do, like commissions, and with water features and all sorts of crazy shit. But as the OTT guys said in their discussion, the drawbacks for me, even if I had the space, even if I had the cash, I would not want that sort of thing for my wargaming terrain. Because for me, the downsides for wargaming are too big. And that is the lack of flexibility, the fact that after I've played on that fixed board 8-10 times,
you can't really vary it up.
I mean, you might, even if you said, well, you only sculpt the ground form, so you can put different buildings on it, okay, but all of the hills and the contours are in the same place, the rivers run in the same way.
Your line of sights are still fairly fucking similar, because
do you know
again,
what I mean?
You've got a 8-inch by 6-inch patch that you can put either a couple of little dwellings on or some bigger dwellings. Do you know what I mean? It's still that same piece of furniture in the same location, not.
And even more so, let's say I've got a beautiful 4x4 board that is European green fields, grass and rocks or whatever. What if I fancy playing it in the depths of winter when everything's under 3 foot of snow? What if I fancy playing a game where I want a mangrove swamp? Oh, that's no good to me. I need another board. Do you know what I mean? What if I fancy playing a game where I'm in the depths of the centre of a conurbation in medieval city?
Yeah, I'll tell you somebody who it might turn people off because it's 3D printing related. But
we haven't even mentioned that yet.
No, but we'll come to that in a minute. Where is it? Tabletop Scenery on Instagram. So tabletop.scenery. Do 3D print commission stuff for a lot of different suppliers, so like Infinite Dimensions and some other stuff. They are currently in the process of building a massive skirmish Mordheim table that has got a lot of water areas and a bridge and other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
It looks cool. There's a lot of different routes around the table. There's a lot of different avenues for exploration and that kind of thing. But for me, whilst the table looks gorgeous, even with just the 3D render that they've done and the layout that they've done, if they did all those pieces individually and had some different length bridges, etc.
So just to be clear, are they creating one of these fixed tables?
Yeah, they're creating a fixed table with everything and building everything onto plateaus and everything else.
Just to be clear,
It looks good, but the terrain looks good just placed on a mat. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And the modularity of it, of going, okay, well, this last week we had the big, massive bridge running diagonally across the 6x4 table with a load of stuff running up onto it. Let's this time make a shorter run of it that will go midway across the table and act as like a dividing city wall and have one side that's more foresty and that kind of thing, and then the inside of the conurbation. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
You've got variety, you've got replayability there. And when you're spending time and effort 3D printing a project, building a project up, painting it, doing everything to it, you want it as modular as possible.
Yeah.
And this is where we come to with my 15mm Flames of War table at the moment. I've built standing crop mats and like ploughed fields. I've printed out a shit ton of 15mm cobblestone walling. I'm currently in the process of printing that cobblestone walling modified for me to stick bocage to it rather than go to the effort of cutting up a load of MDF.
Do you want to put one of them on screen to show everybody?
In a minute. I'm just going to run through everything.
I'll get your thing ready. You just go when you're ready.
And I'll just go back into it so it's live. And then I've got my trees that I've just done that are on a variety of size bases and consequentially can be used to mark the edge of a forest, can be used to like single individual trees on a stand and then groups of two and then marking the outside area of like the forest kind of thing. The reason I've gone for that and I've gone for doing these trees this way is so that they're modular, so I can play them in fantasy. I could play them in a sci-fi green fields, not that it really happens that often.
You could play World War II, modern day, ancient history.
etc. All of that for the mats and the ploughed fields and the trees.
Plus the fact there is an element of scale.
Scale agnosticism.
Yeah, that's the word. So, because like a tree is either a big tree in 15mm or a not so big tree in 28mm, but it still looks and is shaped like a tree. Yes, you might have some issues around how you do your foliage. That might like it look out of scale, but you can get away with blue murder. It's like rocks, isn't it?
Yeah. And again, my dirt roads that I've got for this, they're 15mm dirt roads. But actually, they make really good pathways for 28mm fucking Oathmark game that we played on Monday.
Yeah. I mean,
the fields worked really good for 28mm Oathmark as well.
They're just like a gravel track look.
Yeah.
They can just as easily be single file tracks through woods at 28 as they are proper roadways at 15.
And what this project now means is I've got a Western European table, or I will have a Western European table by the time I buy a mat. What I can then do is go and buy some houses for bolt action. And lo and behold, I've got a 28mm Western Europe table. I could print off some printable scenery medieval stuff. Oh, look, we've now got a rank and flank medieval table, fantasy table. It's that kind of thing of if you're going to go and spend the time and money doing something, having it as modular as possible. Again, Frostgrave is the bane of your life. You've got a 4 foot by 4 foot table. You've still not got it finished, have you, Paul?
No, but
the problem with Frostgrave is you can't really have it modular because of the snow and the setting. I know it's melting.
Well, be clear what you say by modular. I can create a table with infinite variety for playing a game of winter-themed fantasy.
Yeah.
But it isn't. It is what it is. It's everything's covered in fucking snow and ice. So
yeah,
and I had considered not adding snow effects to the buildings, not adding snow effects
so that you could use them for Mordheim.
But for me, that was a line that broke my immersion enough for it to piss me off. And I wanted to lean into the look. And the ruins I've got, if I wanted to do Winter Mordheim, I could do Winter Mordheim. You know, it's only the winter thing aspect that is locked in.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not... that is exactly my point, Darren. I don't think that is a wrong answer. And I think in terms of flexibility, as long as you can live with it and it engages you, there's no problem. There's absolutely no problem.
So, shall we go down to my camera so I can show the boys and girls what I was on about with the bocage? So on the right here, we've got printable scenery, king and country, dry stone walling, scaled down to 15mm, so printed at 60% scale. What I then did last night, because I had this discussion with you on Monday of I need some bocage to edge my fields and that kind of thing. Do I cut narrow, thin strips of MDF that are going to warp like fuck? Or do I take this approach, which is take the STL file, bastardize it, so it's nice and smooth and cuts down my printing time, and print it, and then just stick my clump foliage to the outside of it, so that lo and behold, my bocage is a similar size, scale, and length to that of my dry stone walling. That's the option I'm going for.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of work and it's a little bit involved, but
the thing is, again,
these are going to be absolutely, and again, these are going to be absolutely bomb-proof versus MDF and warping over time.
Yeah.
Like, there is no flex in this at all. So the substrate is going to stay attached.
I mean, you could use 2mm plastic card, cut into 4x1 strips. That's what I've done in the past for hedges, fences, that sort of thing. You didn't have to go down that route, but ultimately you're a 3D printer. You own a 3D
I've already
printer,
got it. Yeah, exactly.
and it was a piece of piss for you to modify a model for that linear obstacle.
And it also means,
literally to create a framework that you can build hedges onto.
All be the same footprint. So again,
yeah.
I will take this curved wall that's like 4 inches by 4 inches.
Yeah.
That would waste a lot of material to cut out as a plastic card strip.
Yeah.
Smooth it out, print it, done.
Yeah.
That is part of the beauty of additive manufacturing.
Just to be clear, he does know, Jerry. We did have a conversation about height. What he's saying is that ridge is going to form a substrate or a base that clump's going to go onto. Clump foliage is going to go onto.
So it's going to be.
He did. We could have printed the skeleton right to the top, but when we discussed it, both David and I decided it wasn't necessary because it didn't need to be that strong. And the higher David goes, just the longer it makes the print time. All we want is the base, the linear base with that small upstand, so that you can build up from there. But no, we do realise, we did have the conversation that bocage is not hedging as we might know it here in the UK. It's a very specific French thing. Because again, but you're going to do that, aren't you, David? You're planning to go quite high with it.
I'm planning to go as high as I can with it. I just needed something to act as a skeleton, and the easiest and quickest solution for me was to modify a file, because again, they all then form the same footprint. And when we sat and were dicking around on Monday night when we were building the Oathmark table, these work really fucking well for blocking around the terrain and bits and pieces that I've got, and for everything else. So why reinvent the wheel, measure these, and have them like perfectly straight? Because again, they've got like natural variation along the section as well.
Although when you've got your bocage on there, I think you'll find most of that will disappear.
Yes, I know that will disappear and the bocage will be on top of it, but
because there's only so thin you're going to be able to get it, and it'll start to sort of. But then again, that helps because it'll give you volume and it'll make it look like what it is, which is essentially a fucking wall made out of wooden leaves.
Yeah. Because again, this stuff with the shapes and sizes that I've got also works well going round my forests. Yeah. Building up around my forests, etc. It's a nice little modular system, and it occupies next to no space. And similarly, if I get a load of clump foliage on this and get this part up, I might need a second bag of clump foliage. But the point still stands of I've then got the same measurements and system to build around without having to spend hours cutting with a jigsaw.
And coming back to David's multi-use argument, what is robust and convincing bocage in 15 mil is perfectly good agricultural and rural hedging at 28.
At 28.
So, Again, it's all about getting bang for your buck. I think. To go with the message of how do we build and collect terrain, I think.
I'm done with my camera, by the way, mate.
Okay, mate. If you just, I'm gonna sort of start talking. Yeah, hedging your bets exactly, Darren. I'll start talking, mate, and you interrupt where your thoughts are different. I would say that if somebody were to ask me about wargaming terrain, I would always say look to start with a gaming mat. The model, the sort of terrain industry model that we've got going on now, where people use some sort of gaming mat, normally
Printed mat, yeah.
printed cotton, I think it is, with a neoprene rubber backing. It's just the way to go. Your choice in terms of finishes is just unbelievably huge. And the costs, you can pretty much pay what you want. Depending on the printed text you want, whether you want them double-sided, single-sided.
Well, again, they start from like 30 and go up from there, don't they?
Yeah. You can get them cut and printed in any size you want. There are enough manufacturers now. The choice is just bewildering. If you can't find what you want, you probably haven't looked hard enough. It's not because nobody's doing it.
Again, Darren's just made a good point about mats. You can just print a set, or not print, make a set of XPS under hills, throw them under your soft mat, and suddenly, oh look, we've got hills.
Particularly if you use some of the mats that are like just fabric, because they will literally mold. The ones, because you can get the mats made.
Neoprene's a bit harder. But
neoprene won't conform as smoothly, but you can get raw fabric. It'll literally hug anything you put underneath it. But even the mats have really only one problem, and that is that they are completely flat. So whatever texture is printed on it, whether it's grass, mud, snow, trees, or forest canopy, the drawback is that it is completely flat. Yeah. But other than that, it doesn't really have any drawbacks. They're not difficult to store when you've got a few. If you start to get a massive collection...
They store nicely rolled up, don't they?
If you start to get a massive collection, storing lots of rolled up mats in either tubes or holders can become a bit bewildering. But, storing any huge collection of anything is a problem. And the advantage is they are hugely playable. They are game friendly because they lay completely flat. Do you agree, mate?
Yes, I agree with you on that.
So that would always be step one. Step two is if you've got any large terrain pieces or large terrain features, my advice would always be, first of all, look at something that is pre-coloured or pre-finished. So if it's a large hill, large building, anything that's going to become a real big feature of your table, look. Before you decide that don't decide it's too expensive for you until you've looked. Because you might surprise yourself.
You're massively undervaluing the time and effort it's going to take you to get something to a similar standard. Yeah. Or the requirement, if you're going to static grass and flock your own hills, of maybe you're better off if you're going to spend on an applicator to do a proper job of it. Particularly if you're doing a big foot square hill, it soon starts to pay for itself
Yeah.
to buy an applicator to do it. But then that's an additional expense that you haven't necessarily factored in when looking at it versus Matey on eBay that's doing them. I mean, again, the dirt roads that I got off eBay,
Yeah.
that we've covered on stream here a couple of times, are fucking amazing for the price.
I think so.
And they're going to form a very big backbone to the table that we've got for Flames of War.
I spent about 50 or 60 quid on the entire range of Battlefield in a box, rivers and tributaries and fords to build rivers. Essentially, I did have one piece of work. I had to put PVA on them and sprinkle the static grass that was in the box on the banks. That was all I had to do. The water was all painted. The underground, the earth was all pre-coloured. Yeah, to be fair, I hadn't really thought about experimenting with contours under mats. It's something I might experiment with more, actually, having watched you guys talk about it.
I think we should do it because, again, the club has a absolute plethora of fabric mats.
I can get those polystyrene packing sausages from work because we chuck fucking tons of the bloody things away all the time. That is a good shout. But like David said, for the big stuff, and again, let me tell you from experience, I really like my Carnivale terrain from TT. I have only fully painted one building.
Again, I really love my drop zone table from TT.
It took forever to paint that cream brown
brick.
It just takes forever to paint these straight lines. It takes forever. My Frostgrave table, the buildings are sort of 2/3 finished, but David and I together must have put, what do you reckon, 30 hours into it, mate?
Yeah, if not more.
You know, and they're not finished. They've got no snow effect on them. They're not even fully coloured yet.
No, we've just been base coating them, haven't we?
And that's 3D prints and MDF you've got to paint. Okay? Beautiful, but fuck me. The work is crackers. Now, if you were to look at War Cradle, pre-coloured MDF.
Empires at War.
Yeah.
Who I've got experience with after buying my flame stuff from them.
Game Mat EU, pre-coloured resin terrain pieces for sci-fi. And fantasy. Because Game Mat EU do like medieval style buildings and castle walls and that sort of stuff. These are big terrain features, big gaming features that you literally unpack from work. I mean, the coloured MDF buildings, yeah, you got to glue it together. But trust me, I could assemble fucking 10 War Cradle Scenics buildings in the time it takes me to paint one TT Combat building. Now, admittedly, that's only about 18 quid or whatever it is for the raw MDF. And the fucking equivalent building from War Cradle will probably cost me 35 quid. But what is the time worth?
A rattle campaign MDF buildings before assembly using different colours on different components. I mean, yeah, that's a good shout.
No, that is very... And to be honest with you, Ewok, the same trick here. The roof panels were pre-painted on the sprue with an airbrush. But obviously, this stuff, the detailing around the windows, this is all just etched detailing on a flat MDF panel. That had to all be brush painted.
Yeah, it's not even like yours is grey board, is it?
No. That all had to be brush painted. And, people could push back and say, well, you didn't have to do that. No, I could have painted it all grey, but then it wouldn't have looked very Venetian 16th, 15th century, would it? because Venetian buildings didn't look like that in the 16th, 15th century. When you look at the art references, they unfortunately did like their colour. But
Again,
that's
if
a
you're
me
going,
problem, maybe.
here's another thing: if you're gonna spend your time building something, build it so it's usable for multiple systems. Build it so that you can use it on multiple different maps.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of building some cork hills. Have been for a while. I haven't put anything on them that scales them, so I can use them for gaslands as big like messes.
Yep.
I can use them in AOS. I can use them in anything that's using like a Badlands style map. And the reason I went that route was because I'm spending the time and effort to hobby on them. I don't want to stick scatter to the piece itself to make it only specific for one game. I can use it in sci-fi, I can use it in fantasy, I can use it in everything. And here's another thing that I've just realised by saying scatter that we haven't touched on.
Yep.
Scatter.
Well, that was going to be my next thing, because obviously, like you say, when we're going down in size, we've got our ground texture, our mat. We've then got our feature pieces, which we have endeavoured to get as close to playable as we can. But then we come, like David says, to scatter. So what would you say about scatter, mate?
There's multiple different ways of doing it. Either having the pieces loose, depending upon the size of the scatter, or, for example, we did Drowned Earth, didn't we?
Yep.
And we bastardized the club sci-fi stuff by just basically getting a load of aquarium plants and putting them on different rough shapes of MDF.
If you think
so that
about
we can...
we've got, so that we made the most fucking basic. It's literally MDF biscuits with cheap Chinese aquarium plants off eBay glued to them, with mixed herbs sprinkled on the biscuits as ground cover. And we've used those sort of like jungle-like, I don't know what you describe them as, scatter pieces. We've used them in Armada, Bolt
Infinity.
Action. What did you just say?
Drowned Earth.
Drowned
Infinity.
Earth. Yeah, Infinity. So we have used what is essentially an absolutely moronically easy piece of terrain to create. To be honest, we could easily upscale them by doing some cool oil wash work to tone the colours down and give some depth to them.
Again, Darren's just made a valid suggestion here: barrels and wooden crates.
Yeah. Do you know what, Ewok? I didn't, mate. I'm going to remedy that now. If the project system doesn't take a week to fucking load.
Stanley, I love your filler. It's nice and soft, but fuck me, does it go everywhere because it's so soft.
Let me get that loading and we'll go back to talking. After you've done your large pieces, and that can include forests and organic stuff, we're not just talking about buildings. Again, you can get, David is putting a lot of work and time into creating. He's got armatures, he's going to put his own foliage on them, he's created his own bases. Like I said before, you can go on eBay and Etsy, you can find people who've done that stuff for you. You can buy them finished.
But again,
and
I'm
some
putting
of
the
it
effort.
is not expensive.
And again, I'm putting the effort into doing this because I didn't put the effort into my buildings.
Yeah. I mean, there is none of this is a case of right or wrong. It's just a case of
this is our 2 cents.
Yeah.
Again, if you're happy playing on a table with books, go play on a table with books.
Well, no, don't. Set your bloody goals a bit higher than that, for fuck's sake. I'm just going to see if I can quickly find Ewok. Do me a favour if you can. DM me on Discord if you're part of the OTT server. Find me on there and DM me a link to your project, mate, if you can. Because the fucking OTT website drives me nuts when I'm trying to find stuff.
Again, I was looking for one that was mentioned last week on stream, and I couldn't fucking find it for love nor money.
The other thing to say about scatter is the stuff that you can definitely buy that requires a little bit of work. Wouldn't you agree, mate?
And the next thing is, don't be scared of having too much, because it sets the scene on the table.
When you're buying stuff like I've got here, so what I've got here are just simple, basic MDF pallets, crates and boxes. These things will paint in no time at all. You know, a bit of primer, dry brush, wash, it's fucking done. Yeah, you could bang out. I've got a collection of different size crates and pallets here. This is probably going to take me an hour to paint. It probably took me an hour to build it all from the MDF sprue, and it'll probably take me an hour to paint the whole bloody lot. That's so. When you're talking about terrain that you want to put hobby time into, your scatter is where that should go. Because, and for the simple reason, when you start talking about scatter terrain, it's everything from fountains, park benches, crates,
objectives,
barrels. Come on, give me a few more. Market stalls, boats. They're the kind of things you won't find easily finished. They're often model kits in their own right, so you will have to often do work to them. And again, do not forget that when you're looking at your big terrain features and you think,
again, look at that boat.
That's only half the money, even though I've got to paint it.
Look at that boat earlier for Carnivale.
Yes, Tim. Yeah, good mate. What were you saying, David? Oh, the Carnivale gondola.
Yeah, the boat we spoke about earlier. Beautiful mini, beautiful boat. Yes, it's £9, but fuck me, will that set the scene on your table?
Yeah, and what David said, for every building you buy, you want to buy 2 or 3 pieces of scatter. Okay? So when you buy the building, you also buy the fountain and the fucking wall and the pile of crates. And the other thing about scatter is you can do individual pieces, but you can also think of scatter in terms of small vignettes or dioramas.
For example, grab yourself a 60mm base, throw some ammo crates on it, sci-fi ammo crates on it, bang, you've got an objective and a piece of scatter that you can basically throw anywhere. And it's very minimal input.
We've got Ewok.
You just had to glue.
Thank you, Ewok.
You just had to glue something to an MDF biscuit, prime it, and paint it. In the grand scheme of things, minimal work, but will set the scene again. Same 60mm biscuit. Throw a wrecked cart onto it. Oh look, we're in the middle of a fantasy battle now.
Yeah, this is genius.
And again, this is the thing, right? Have a box.
Just while we're talking, David, this is Ewok Kebab's project from on Tabletop. His terrain. You carry on now, mate.
Have a box of scatter terrain that you just throw at the table till the table feels alive. You can then have a similar size box for fantasy, and lo and behold, you take the same matte and core organic pieces, for example, if it's a Greenfields map with some trees, and suddenly you go from we are playing fantasy battles to, okay, this is a weird alien planet kind of thing with very minimal input. Just the amount of time it takes you to build and paint the things in the scatter terrain box, because everything else you bought was sort of pre-done. The map was pre-done, the trees were pre-done, so you've just spent 6 hours doing all of your scatter stuff, and you've got 2 tables there for 2 different games, relatively quickly, relatively easily, for relatively cheap, because again, you went modular with your big purchases that were agnostic.
Do you know what? Can I just ask you a question, Ewok? This jungle scatter you did here, this is like way better than our stuff. I very much want to create something like this for my bolt action, because I've got armies for Fall of Singapore, Malaya campaign. So I want to create something like this. How much time would you say went into building? Because obviously you've cut all the bases from foam, you've painted them, textured them, and then dressed them. How much time went into that in terms of hours? Just a ballpark, if you know it. Because I would be fascinated, and I'm definitely going to be scrutinising your project. Because this is exactly the shit I want, and those houses look amazing. I think that's about all of the wisdom that we have to offer on terrain. Would you say, mate?
Yeah. Actually, I have one more point.
Yep.
If you have a mate that you game regularly with, try to go for a different set of terrain. Don't both try and build a Greenfields table. One of you build Greenfields, one of you build Badlands. Because then you've got twice as much bang for your buck. You've both not bought the same things. Lean on each other. This is a community hobby. Let's be a community.
That's a good shout. And bearing in mind what David said earlier about when you acquire a piece, say you acquire some market stalls, and you come into the point where you want to put them together or decorate them, or you're thinking about what merchandise to have on them, always have it in the back of your mind. Can I make these market stalls work for high fantasy, medieval, Middle Ages, Renaissance, Araby, whatever.
Particularly if you're not basing your scatter pieces and they're big enough to leave loose.
Yeah. Always have that in the back of your mind. How many different ways can I spin this piece of terrain? Because unlike your armies, which are projects focused normally around the core idea, you want your terrain projects to be the opposite. For me, the best terrain projects are the ones that are not particularly tightly focused and are actually quite nebulous. You're going for an overall concept or feel. Well, I want it to be swampy. Okay, well, There's a number of different ways we can do swampy. What do you mean?
Ewok has said about 8 hours.
Yeah, I saw that. Thanks, Ewok. That's really useful. That's really useful, and I love that the buildings look really nice as well. Those Mardev on Etsy. I'm assuming he's still doing it. So, I mean, to be fair, Tim makes a good point. Even when you're doing, say, market stalls, if you can keep, I mean, David hasn't really extolled the virtues of 3D printing, but you could 3D print the goods to sit on the platform of the stall.
Well, again, even if you don't print the goods, if it's a spice fucking stall like we bought from Iron Gate for Carnivale, well, in Carnivale, when we've played with it so far, we've left it unattended. We haven't even got a little cellar mini to go with it. Do you know what I mean? We then put that in a sci-fi setting. Spices are still spices.
I was just thinking about it. I mean, even without a 3D printer, say you wanted to do a weapon stall, just take all of your spare 40k weapons and glue them to a piece of plastic card or in a heap. Or then you can take all of your spare AOS swords and choppers and just swap that out. There you go. You got a fantasy weapons stall or a dark sci-fi weapons stall. It's
modularity.
You know.
And this is something we've spoken on and harped on about a little bit this evening of get the bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Again, recommendations, buy a map. Once you've bought a map, maybe before you start looking at your pre-coloured scenery, etc., have a look at your hills, have a look at your undergrowth that goes with the mat, because they are agnostic. They will go with everything. And if you don't scatter fucking 40k bolt guns all over your terrain,
or skulls,
it will work for any scale within reason.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Not only think about scale, theme versatility. Think about scale versatility. And another point that may not be obvious. Don't be afraid to revisit things you maybe have had a not so good experience with in the past. Loads of the guys in the chat tonight have talked about printed cardboard terrain. Okay, I had some of the original printed cardboard buildings from White Dwarf inserts and TSR Dungeons and Dragons products in the 80s. Okay. They were fucking terrible. Things have changed, okay?
But I was about to say, they were terrible by today's standards.
Exactly. Technologies have changed a lot. You know, if you've had a bad experience with something, do not be afraid to go back and have another look, okay? But yeah, we hope that was useful and interesting for you. I think we're about done, mate.
I think we are. We're just after time.
Yep, we haven't done bad. Just got to finish up the beer. Yep.
So
I love it. The guys are still exchanging ideas in the chat. Jerry just says pieces of felt are excellent for area terrain. You mean like as like a base to set trees on, so you can represent a wood, right, Trevor? Not Trevor. I mean Jerry. So Ewok saying he's gonna. When you say you're gonna make your Frostgrave table better, is it like painting work you've got to do, Ewok, or are you gonna do some of the things we've talked about tonight? Add in more scatter, increase the density. I may be a customer then. Where are you based? Yeah, ponds, water features is another great one. Yeah.
Rivers. Because
Yep.
again, what's a really wide river in 10 mil is a fucking stream in 30.
Anyway, we've waffled enough. As I say, I hope you all enjoyed the show tonight, and we hope that it was in some way useful if you were thinking about, and I would encourage you to think about your wargaming terrain, perhaps more than you do, because we're all guilty of it. We all get very excited and geared up
look,
for
new
our
shinies.
little mini toy soldiers, but to be honest, it can often take a bit of a push to give this stuff the attention it deserves, and it just dresses your games beautifully. So thank you very much to everybody in the chat. As usual, you guys were awesome, and you made the show everything that it is. We're just two idiots along for the ride. If you can only find time to do one thing tonight, please click the like button. If you can do any of the other things listed here in the center of the screen, like share, comment, subscribe, that's amazing. But a like is enough. If that's all you can give us, we're grateful.
We do read the comments. We do
eternally.
interact with the comments.
Yep.
It's...
It was fantastic to see a lot of comments on our last video for the coverage at Peterborough. And again, so tonight, if you want to put anything in the comments, put a link or some sort of direction or pointer. Point people to your favourite terrain piece or company or range, something that you've discovered, because to be honest, I think
it's a big wide world out there,
the market
and some
now
of us
is
are
huge.
and some of us are a little blinkered to what's right under our noses.
Yeah, I mean, if it weren't for places like on Tabletop, I wouldn't know about half the stuff that's out there, and it just boggles my mind the way that it's constantly growing, expanding. So all those little niche Etsy sellers that produce fantastic finished pieces of terrain or even cool printed STLs, stick them in the comments below. I think that's it. Time to say goodbye, and we will see you all next week.
Next week.
Cheers.